What's good? What's going on, gentlemen? No Gary Knight, no Double G, but guess who's in the house? That's right. He's been off for quite some time, but I am back, not in the Wings Nest, but overall hanging out on all across all the time with two great gentlemen. We got Double M and we got Double S in the house. Muffler Mike, Shawn Slaght. What's going on, gentlemen?
Not much.
Hey, Pat, how's it going?
Now I'm just trying to live. I'm trying to fill some shoes here. I know. Listen, the boots I'm trying to fill is hard. You know what I mean? Because Gary is an encyclopedia for lacrosse, and I'm at like level one beginners, talking lacrosse. But anyway, a lot of gentlemen. I mean, a lot of gentlemen. A lot of stuff has happened here in the lacrosse world. So, Muffler Mike, I'm going to kick it right to you. What happened so far? I know we had a lot of NL playoffs. The Philadelphia Wings, since the last time I've talked to you guys, a lot has changed in that world. Once I thought we were heading to the playoffs, and then we just pooped the bed.
Yeah, a lot going on. Obviously for everyone who's tuning in, Gary's still in Prague. The Herbeski Memorial Tournament just wrapped up today, I believe. The Nova Scotia Privateers repeated as champions, so congratulations to them. Of course, Gary was out there with the Oshawa Green Gales. I'm not sure where they finished, but I'm sure he's going to comment and let us know. I believe they finished in the top 5 or top 8 for the tournament. So another successful venture out there in the Czech Republic, which is great to hear, great to see. Just that tournament just seems to get bigger and better every year. So, which is great for the sport. So
you said Beetlejuice and he shall appear.
There he is. Yeah, it's already morning.
Yeah, morning, Gary.
6-7 hours ahead. Yeah, geez.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
To head back. Okay, Oshawa finished 7th. So, congrats to them on another fairly successful venture out there. And of course,
I was jealous.
What's that?
I'm jealous. I saw all the cool pictures Gary was taking. I was jealous. He looked like he was having a rocky good time. Him and the family, him and the players and coaches. He looks like he was living it up out there. I was a little bit jealous. I was like, dude, I need to go hang out with Gary more.
Rubbing some shoulders with some legends. I always saw him with Shawn Evans there for a bit, and there's some big names out there.
Yeah, I live a dull, boring life. I need to hang out with Gary more.
Well, you can always come up to Utica in September for the World Box Championships. That should be something. So men's and women's for the first time ever. I believe they're going to have 10 teams, if I'm not mistaken, on the women's side box. So that's going to be a big deal. So shout out to Michelle Boyer, friend of the show, head of World Lacrosse, who was worked tirelessly to put that together and to get them included for that upcoming tournament in September, I believe it is. So obviously we had NLL playoffs this weekend, but we do need to back up because last week we went on early at 11 a.m. and there was one Week 21 game left to play as we were signing off.
And it still had playoff implications, too. It still had playoff implications.
It had playoff implications. Yes, it did. So,
yeah, Pat doesn't want
I know, Pat. Yeah, trust me, Pat. This is not intended to be a beatdown session on the Wings.
Hey, listen, I'm numb to it. I'm numb to this feeling.
They traveled to Rochester, and Rochester had beaten Georgia on Friday. They had a doubleheader and entered the weekend with about a 3% chance of making the playoffs, and they needed to win both of their games and have Vancouver, Saskatchewan, and New York all lose. Well, entering this game on Sunday, everything had happened except for their second win, and they came out guns blazing. Led 6-2 at the half, 10-2. I'm sorry, 6-2 after 1, 10-2 at the half. Pretty much steamrolled the Wings 12-3.
Well, I mean, it looked like to me the Wings were there just for the trip. I mean, it looks like they were on autopilot again. The Rochester had the meaning of wanting to make the playoffs. The Philadelphia Wings looked like they were just there just to say, "Hey, we were here," and that was it. I mean, obviously there's something going on in Philadelphia between the front office, the players on the field, and so forth. Because and you guys, I mean, I get it. Maybe you want to play for spoilers. There's not much to play for. You're not trying to get hurt. If that's what you're trying to resume, I guess all those things. But Rochester just wanted to get in, and they wanted to handle business from the door, and they did. They came out and straight punched Philly in the mouth, and Connor Fields just 7 goals in that game. I mean, just a playmaker. Just absolutely showing you why he's one of the top players in the league.
Absolutely, absolutely, and he should get MVP consideration at this point. I don't think he's going to win when you take into account what Josh Byrne and Dane Smith have done in Buffalo. Jeff T almost single-handedly
Yeah.
carrying New York to the final playoff spot instead. You know,
I got Nick Rose in that
yes,
too.
and
Yeah.
Nick Rose. So you know, it's definitely going to be tough to see if he gets snubbed for a finalist spot for that. And I'll say the same thing I've been saying for a couple of years now. I hope the NLL can rectify this by making some sort of like a forward of the year, but most outstanding forward, something like that can maybe alleviate the. It's almost feels like it's almost become a requirement now, and I know Christian Del Bianco, a goalie, won MVP last year, and Matt Vince has been considered the last couple of years. But it almost feels like at this point, an MVP award is just automatically going to go to a forward. And one of the forwards who racks up the best stats, and I tend to have an issue with it just because. Okay, you got a lot of stats, but if you got a lot of stats on a team that didn't make the playoffs, say like Jeff Teat, there's that
That's
whole
what's been the question with that too, right? Can a guy nominee or even a winner, would it make sense for a players on a non-playoff team to win an award like that?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it done in other sports.
Yeah.
I mean, the one that always comes to mind for me is it '87, the Cubs. Andre Dawson won the MVP, and I think they were a last place team.
Yeah.
But he just had just monster numbers that year hitting, and they just decided, okay, he was he had a great season and was worthy, but the Nighthawks this year, I mean, they've definitely gone as Connor Fields has gone, so
Yeah.
it's
feel
tough to.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Mike, I feel a little bit of that, and I feel like this is a completely different team too when Rylan Hartley's back in net. All due
Yeah.
respect to Hutchcraft, sorry. He's not Ryan Hartley, and this team just does kind of a 180 when he's in goal.
Yeah, I agree. And we'll talk about it in a bit when we get to the playoff game, but it definitely showed. I'd say it definitely showed there too. Limiting Toronto the way he did. Despite not coming out with the win. But
I mean, all I can say about that, right, is one more hit to the head, and who knows? Like that's his last.
Yeah. I mean, I guess maybe the concern, tails off a little bit just because we know now, that the Nighthawk season is over. So,
Yeah.
Obviously, he could be playing MSL or something, somewhere else during the summer. But I mean, if he decide, I'm not going to fault him if he decides to take the summer off.
No, not at all.
And just make sure that he's as healed as he can be from these injuries. So that hopefully, hopefully it doesn't happen again in the future. And if it does, it's not, there's not as high a level of concern
Yeah.
with the potential that is, career ending.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I
Well, I
want to
mean,
go
like,
kind of go ahead, Pat.
no. When I look at the Rochester Nighthawks, and again, like you're mentioning, without Ryan Harley, in the between the pipes, they're like a completely different team. That's the story was from them this year. They just were. They started out high, like I thought they were going to do, piggybacking off of their season previous, and then they kind of fell apart a little bit. But then they found themselves in a playoff position, and they handled business that was in front of them with the Philadelphia Wings. And again, a complete loss Philadelphia Wings, but nonetheless, you handled business. You had control of your destiny. And then, you had this game coming up, and, it is what it is. What it is. You mentioned about Connor Fields. Important player to him, but they need to, the future just need to build around Connor Fields, get him the right supporting cast, and so forth. And
yeah,
like you said, if
absolutely.
you're,
And I think they're a good chunk there, especially on the offensive side. Um,
Mhm.
you know, McConvey is going to
Yeah.
be big for them. Ryan Smith, I mean, that guy is just a hat trick machine. He
Oh yeah.
really
Mhm.
is. Unfortunately, I mean, man, I was going to say we didn't see it, this weekend, but we actually did. He did have a hat trick in the playoff loss to Toronto, but but that guy's a beast, and to build the right side around him, I think if you're the Nighthawks, you gotta feel pretty good also about the increased level of confidence from Kyle Waters on the right side
Yeah.
this year. He was a guy who he he just really couldn't find a good fit when he was with Calgary. They made that trade, and everyone's kind of like, well, yeah, he's, what are we really getting here? And I think it's for me, it was one of those change of scenery type deals
Mhm.
that's really
Yeah.
helped. It's really helped Waters, and I think a 2-man game with him and Smith. We're going to see that for quite a few years to come.
Yeah. You know
Without,
what's a good
without
that's a good point, Mike. Is you look at some of these guys. I go back to again Saskatchewan. You look like a 33-year-old Mike Triolo, where he really didn't do much with his career, but you put him in the right system, set him up for success, and look
yeah,
what he's done. It's the same thing with Kyle Waters, right? You put him in the right system, put him in a position where he can succeed, give him the floor time, and let him flourish.
yeah, and I think for Sask, you're going to see the same kind of. I think you're going to see the same kind of growth out of Patrick Dodds and Nathaniel Kozevnikov
100%. Yeah.
in the next couple of years. We're already seeing it with Clark Walter. So, I mean,
That's why Usher going back. We'll get into Albany, but that's why they had to give up Marshall Powless was because they had Clark Walter sitting there on the practice roster, and Derek Keane finally said, "I have to do something with this guy. I can't have him sitting on my practice roster any longer."
yeah, yeah, and it's ended up working out for both teams. So,
Yeah.
but I guess the last thing I'll throw in about this last regular season game, unfortunately, same old story for the Wings. I mean, Zach Higgins, 49 saves. He set an NLL record, single season record for saves with 757. But he doesn't set that record if not for the fact that he faced 64 shots,
Yeah.
and it's just it. I don't care if you're Matt Vince. I don't care if you're Nick Rose. I don't care if you're CDB. You face that much rubber.
And he was
Too,
doing it.
too many are going to go in.
Yeah, and he was doing it.
To affect the outcome of the game.
And you might be okay once or twice in the season, but he was facing it night in and night out. Like he had nothing in front of him.
Yeah, and
I,
obviously, go ahead, Pat.
no, from a, and again, thanks to you guys for me covering it now over a year. You just see it, and it is frustrating. I mean, has there been goals where it's gone by, but then, like you said too, Shawn, the defense. Where was the defense in front of them? I mean, it was so lackluster. So the miscommunication and sticking the man-to-man, sticking the zone defenses, the set screens that the opposing offenses were throwing out and leaving guys wide open. And you saw in this last game, I mean, Connor Fields did whatever he wanted. He could shoot from the outside of the box. He can shoot. He was hitting those spin moves. He was pushing R2. He was doing all sorts of things, whatever he wanted to this defense. And the defense just had no answers and just it was flat. It was, and that's what it came up to. The defense was just flat overall, and there was just no bailing out
Yeah.
the goaltender.
I don't mean to chuckle, but it's almost like, you see that one goal he had where he basically made 3 wings defenders who were all converging on him collide and all collapse, and then just crease dive.
Like Keystone
I
Cops,
mean
right?
that's it's almost like that was the Wings defense this season in a nutshell.
In a whole,
Just watching
yeah,
that
and a whole.
So
And this has been going on for now. Like I said, I've been covering for a year, and it's just like this is what's been going on for the whole entire year. I mean, it was bad. It was just every home game. Like, again, 1-8 at home. I mean, and your offense to me, can only bail you out for so long. I mean, they were trying to put up double digit points, and it was just not enough. It's just not enough. And we mentioned in previous shows how the offense is just now all of a sudden have to try and match the opposing offense and the opposing scoring. Now they're overthinking. Now they're overtaking shots and making bad decisions. And couple of the creative plays that they're trying to come up with. You get just overthinking instead of taking the shot and all that stuff. So yeah, it was just a combine of a lot of ugly for this Philadelphia Wings team. It was just a lot going wrong. I mean, your expectations were playoffs, and now all of a sudden your expectations were just to get the number 1 seed, Slaght. I mean, it was like I watched Sixers season, trying to make a playoffs, and all of a sudden we're just happy to get the number 1 seed teams. I mean, number 1 seed in the playoffs. So to me, you failed.
Yeah, and that's what was disconcerting with me with this last game is I think you hit on the head pad, just like they were going through the motions. And when you have the firepower that Philly has, even with a goaltender with Rylan Hartley, to put up 3 goals.
Come on.
Yeah.
You have
it's tough.
and
It's
you're
definitely tough.
That's tough to swallow. That's
and Mitch Jones can only do so much. You had Joe Russ Terrence who looked really really sharp this year. You had Ben McIntosh, Sam LeClaire was getting his in there, getting some goals in there. Holden Gatoni did some things. Blaze Reardon, after the injury, switched up his play. He used to be in the box trying to bulldoze his way through. And then all of a sudden he started taking a lot more outside shots and inside. So I don't know, some of the philosophy and some of the change, the playbook changed a little bit. So I don't know. It's just and like I said, it's just the focus that you're trying to you're worried about the defense, and all that stuff. It kind of it's what hurt this wing team.
Yeah, and of course we'll get to the kind of the aftermath of this. Obviously, with the win, Rochester, does the seemingly impossible and does clinch that final playoff spot. A few days later, head coach and general manager Paul Day, did write a letter to the Wings fans. Hey,
Yeah.
I think he was pretty blunt and honest about it, and he said, hey, look, as much as I've honored to have coached this team since the reboot, if you will, we haven't attained our goal. We haven't certainly looked like the Wings of old. 6-time champions. And he's decided to step down from the head coaching role. He'll remain in the general manager role. And honestly,
Oh, great.
well,
He'll be sitting next to me more often. Great.
Listen, I mean, this to me, I mean, this isn't really any different than what he's doing in Peterborough with the Senior A. Lakers.
That's
You
true.
know, he stepped down from the coaching position. Mike Hazen's taking over as head coach. He's just going to solely focus on general manager duties. And look, I'm no expert, and you know there are several. You know, if you want to include, let's just for the moment include Paul Day. You know, I'd say that there's about a third of the league, about a third of the head coaches in the league also function as GMs, but it's not an easy task.
No.
Yeah, I mean we have
No.
Glenn Clark in Albany, I believe, is head coach and GM. Has been since Rich Lisk left to join the Riptide. Um, Patrick Merrill, I believe, is also head coach and GM in San Diego. Um, Kurt Malosky, of course, is head coach and GM in Vancouver, and I believe Shawn Williams also in Vegas. So there's a number of guys, but you know it's demanding. It's to say the least. You know, and
I
you know you gotta keep in mind that being an NLL GM is always different from all the other, you know, we can limit it just to Philly sports. You know, it's different from all the other sports. There's different ways to go about things. You got to think about things like travel and guys, you know, players, other professions, you know, among other things. You got to have, you know, a geographical sense of what's going to work. Hey, look, I'm in Philly. Can I really select this guy, you know, who's a New Westminster, BC native, you know, like say, or just any BC native? Because, you know, the Wings do have a
Yeah.
couple of BC natives, you know, Higgins, Jones, um, uh, some others are are escaping me, but you know, Alex Pace is a Nova Scotia native. So you've got guys from both ends of the continent, you know, on your roster. So it's a lot to consider, and to be able to just drop one of those roles, I think, you know, you that there's a good chance you're going to see significant improvement in the role that he retains because he's focused on
Yeah.
I
he's focused on
I
one
totally
job,
agree.
and you know much the same, and I would like to think at this point he's recognizing, okay, hey, look, my plan to kind of stack the team with a bunch of Peterborough Lakers didn't work out the way I'd hoped. So, you know, now you're going to have a head coach come in, you know, hopefully there's no clash of ideologies or philosophies, you know, but you think again the front office is going to take their time and vet, you know,
And I'm sure Paul will have a say in that too, and who's going to be the new head coach as well. So I mean,
he will,
yeah,
he will. But you know,
One
I guess the only other thing I would add is with the defense, I still feel like I feel the same way. Really, I felt the last couple of years like they need an identity, and I think they
yeah,
were
yes.
again. I think they were. I think they were trying to do it when they acquired Chad Tutton and when they acquired Brock Sorensen, hoping that he would stay healthy. And you know, it's a you know we have to keep that in mind too. It's unfortunate they could have had a good veteran defender in Brock Sorensen playing with them had he not gotten injured. You know, the
yeah.
first game he came back from a major injury that pretty much forced him to call it quits. And I think they were looking to be more of a physical team. Um, you know, and there's other things that didn't. I mean, getting John Rannigan that didn't work out. Uh, he's kind of had an interesting career. It, it seems like his just for some reason just he fits in Georgia. And I mean he's had a couple of stints in Georgia, and those just seem to be his best years. You know, where he really seems to stand out as a defender. Um, you know, so you know it's unfortunate, and you know, yes, they've made a couple of not so great trades. You know, Chris Cloutier didn't work out. Again, hate to be kind of statistical, if you will, about it, but I mean, they were a coin flip away from Austin Stotts instead of Chris Cloutier.
Yeah.
They win that coin flip and they're picking first in the entry draft instead of the expansion draft. So, the experiment with Matt Rambo didn't work probably as well as they'd hoped. He is still on the roster. Maybe something changes and he decides to come back next year. I don't know. We'll probably have to see how the PLL season goes. Maybe Blaze can talk to him a bit. I know they're not teammates, but out on the field. But I still think there's options. I think they have the number 1 pick in the draft. I personally, I wouldn't fault them either way. If they decide to make a pick and there's some, I would hope it's on some stud defender that, that they can kind of pair up with, some of their newer guys like Mitch Armstrong, Jackson Ganton, Kevin Lynch. But I wouldn't fault them either for trading that pick for a bit of a haul. Trade that pick, and I think they have enough offensive weapons they can legitimately part with one of them and maybe some mid-round draft picks.
Well, I think you make a good point, Mike. Yeah, you look at some of those deals that maybe didn't work out for Paul Day, but now he can step back and look at the big picture, right? And maybe those were just spur of the moment type of things where he was trying to juggle that GM and head coach role and had to make that move at the time and didn't have a chance to really think about the repercussions or how this is going to work out. Now he can step back, really look at it, look at this roster, retool it as it needs to be done.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is not a surprise, right? We knew after the end of this year something needed to change.
And I think I mean, I'll throw another name out there. I know he just moved at the trade deadline, but John Wagner, his brother's already playing for the Wings. I mean, John Wagner would be a huge upgrade on the back end if they can, somehow find a way to pry him away from Albany.
My thing is like when I watched Paul Day, especially at the tail end of the season, and look, less is more, right? It's hard to be a head coach and be a general manager of a team, especially if you're on the GM and you're upstairs. You're looking at the whole playing field. You're on the sidelines. You're only looking at certain angles to see what works. But when you're up there, he's going to be able to see, like Shawn said, you're going to see the big picture. You're going to see what's wrong, what adjustments you can make. And I felt like at the tail end, especially the last 2 games of the regular season, especially or not on the road, but at home. And I got to see a not just a coach, but a passionate man about this team, about this franchise, and understands the Philadelphia crowd and how it works and how this city works and how he wants to deliver lacrosse to the city and open a lot of people's eyes to the brand. And what I mean is when I seen this man, and last, like I said, that Thursday before when they faced Saskatchewan, and after the loss they took, I saw a man that just looked like he was pacing back and forth in the hallways. He was pacing. He was so heated up with the team, and and I don't know if he lost it already started to bother me that I felt like the team lost his message, that they weren't paying attention what he was saying and trying to get. So, but now he gets to play a role, like he controls the narrative. He can control. Hey, listen, if you're not going to listen to me or the coach message, we can do it. I'll try and make a deal that works. And whether it's moving up to New York or so forth, or whatever the case may be, or so forth. But like I said, I've seen a man, and then of course I know I'm going to get called the bully from One Angry Anthony if he happens to check into the show. He likes to call me the media bully for making him cry. And listen, I that was the first time and everyone's looking at me because I just I asked him 1-8. It's but again, it's just he's just got so much passion for the game and for the sport, and just trying to open an eye to the Philadelphia crowd of lacrosse, and it's man, if he, like I said, I start to feel for the guy. I really did. I really got the feel for Paul Day, not just the coach, GM, for the human being that he is, and just seeing the passion he has for the city and for the team and all those things. And he wanted to see playoff lacrosse here. We were talking about it. Me and the other beat reporters were talking about. Man, we were getting pumped up about seeing possible lacrosse playoffs here and what the atmosphere is going to be like and all those things. And unfortunately, it didn't go to plan. It never panned out. So. But again, I think now he's going to be able to focus on one, let the coach do it, whoever he decides, or whatever the team, the front office decides, whoever they're going to bring in, and just let him focus on his role. Let him, worry about contract. All right, this guy. Let him worry about the guy about moving pieces. So again,
No, I was just going to say that's a great point, Pat. What you're talking about that last press conference there, he showed emotion. He could just came out there and just give you the old. Cliches over and over again and show like he doesn't care. That's a great message for the Wings fans. This guy cares. He showed some emotion. Yes. He wants a winner.
And he did. He was showing emotion, and then where it's not, it got to the players like, well, this guy's not your normal coach. He does care, and it was like I said, it was written all over his sleeves that he wants to be part of Philly. He wants to open up to a good quality brand that the Philadelphia crowd hasn't seen in a long time. He wants to be, he wants the team to be talked about, not just now in a negative, sense. He wants to be talked in a positive. Oh, look, Philadelphia Wings are in the playoffs. Let's go check them out. I mean, listen, I think the cool theme nights are cool, like Star Wars night, back to the '80s night, but I want to see back to the playoffs night. You know what I'm saying? I want to see lacrosse playoffs night. You know what I mean? Forget WWE night and all those things. I want to see playoff night. That's what we want to see. That's what Philly wants to see as a winner. So, and listen, he's going to be able to do some things now. He's going to be just focused on one goal. He'll be able to sit next to me, and maybe he could ridicule me. I don't know. Maybe he can make me cry. No.
Listen. I if anything, all I'd say is look at Albany. They were 3-15 last year.
Yes. Yep.
And now they're headed to the semifinals. So, it can't happen even with significant retooling.
Yeah, because Albany's got a lot of young guys on that team, but man, they built it right. Yeah.
Yeah. And they have Dyson Williams coming in next year. So
which is even scarier. Yeah.
Nothing like adding a generational talent to, the possibility of, winning the cup this year. So, but we'll move on.
Should I get to the next? Should I get to an ad read real fast? Want to take a quick commercial break?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, let's take a quick commercial break.
If you're a Philly sports fan and you want to travel with your favorite team, then travel with the best. If you want to travel with the pros, then go to phillysportstrips.com. Philly Sports Trips features premium travel and tailgating experiences for the best fans ever the Philadelphia sports fan. Philly Sports Trips has self-travel packages and full travel packages available with round-trip flights for Phillies, Eagles, Flyers, Sixers, and even the Union. They even offer day trips for more local games. Go to phillysportstrips.com, sign up immediately, and tell them EOP sent you. Do not forget, Philly Sports Trips has all the away trips for the Eagles' upcoming 2024 season, including the Brazil trip week 1. Jump on it now before you lose out on all these great opportunities. Go to phillysportstrips.com and don't miss the next great Philly sports moment.
All right. Thank you, Dives. Thank you, buddy. But yeah, that was Philly Sports Trips, guys. Man, get in touch with those guys. Always good stuff. Always a good time. But now, and real fast before I go any further, of course, guys, listen, Philadelphia, Edge of Philly Sports only getting bigger and better with. Oh, sorry, I skipped Yeah, there you go. Edge of Philly Sports only getting bigger and better. Tomorrow, you start your morning off with Phil Stifle training in AM with this bearded, beautiful young man. Start your morning with him at 8 o'clock in the morning, talking Philadelphia sports. Great guy. And then, of course, you go later on in your night there. You got, Party on Broad, and then you got Matty B. He's always pleasantly plumb talking Philly sports. So, again, guys, we got so much more action. But, yeah, let's continue on talking some lacrosse because Sunday nights belong to the lacrosse here and all lacrosse all the time. Let's talk about it.
Hey, yeah. So, another in addition to Higgins' season's single season record, we had another goalie, Christian Del Bianco, set a record for minutes played in the season. So, between the overtime games they had, he actually played more than a full regular season, believe it or not. So, and I do want to also note, I believe Nick Rose of the Toronto Rock did win the Triple Crown, if you will. So what's that? Goals against average,
save percentage,
and is it wins? Is that the last one? So 15 wins. So in the GAA, I believe it was under 10, almost under 9. So
how he doesn't win goaltender of the year this year is
yeah.
I give up if he doesn't. I give up.
Yeah, at this point he has to. He has to. There's all due respect to Vince or Riglieri, the season he's had, Jameson. Okay, yeah, Gary, yeah, it was wins. So
Double G.
Yeah, it will be it'll be a travesty if Nick Rose does not win goaltender of the year. The last stat, Alex Simmons, forward for the Albany Firewolves, I believe he matched Randy Stott's second all-time rookie points. So just behind Jeff Teet's record-setting rookie year. So congrats to him on his accomplishment. And like I said,
hell of a year.
That's
hell of a year. Yeah.
Yep. And that generational talent coming in. That's
pair him with.
Yeah, I mean,
Tyson.
My goodness. I mean, just take that offense and add that, and I mean, personally, I'd put it on par or with Buffalo at this point.
Yeah.
So, but we'll move on here. We've got we had another letter to the fans from another head coach and GM, Kurt Malosky of the Vancouver Warriors, and I know Shawn wanted to discuss this. I'll just read Kurt Malosky's letter to the fans real quick. We started this season with a vision of building a team the city of Vancouver and the province of British Columbia could really get behind. We put commitment, sacrifice, and resiliency at the heart of our play. Our teammates set career milestones, and we pulled together as a team on the longest win streak in franchise history. We carried this passion out into the community and brought lacrosse to over 30,000 children in BC through our Stick to School program. None of this would be possible without your overwhelming support. You showed up game after game to amass an army of Warriors pride, leading the league in record-breaking attendance growth. The season didn't begin or end the way any of us wanted, but it is a stepping stone to the future. We've got more to give, and we've got more determination than ever. No matter the opponent, the score of the game, or the time left on the clock, we will never back down. We'll see you back on the floor.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about the Kurt Malosky effect, right? This is not the same Warriors team we're used to seeing. There's a winning culture now. Losing's not going to be tolerated. And we're even seeing it in the stands. Like, we used to worry about, well, look, Vancouver's attendance is half empty. They're getting crowds now.
Now they're approaching 10,000 at games.
Yeah.
They're knocking on the door at 10,000 a game. So, which is just kudos.
They're getting themselves back on the map, and maybe it didn't end the way they wanted, but you're now seeing those stepping stones. When was the last time we talked about Vancouver Warriors team still in the playoff hunt at the end of the year?
Yeah,
usually they're eliminated pretty early.
Yeah, and I guess I hate to use this as a reference because we were just talking about the Wings with Paul Day and maybe the message just not getting through to the players. I mean, look what happened after that one game where Molosky pretty much kind of had the tirade post
Yeah,
game
it's what Kevin called
and
everybody
just
out. Yeah,
basically said, "I am embarrassed by this team, and all those guys in there should be embarrassed too." And I forget which game it was. It was bad. It was a bad
yeah,
blowout. It was a bad blowout at home. I'm not sure what their record was at that point, but I mean, this was a team that was 2-8, and they basically made it to the brink of the playoffs, much like Georgia did last year when they started 0-7 and basically were 2 games away from clinching a
yeah.
playoff spot. So,
It's kind of an exact opposite situation with Philly, right? Like the players bought in, and when he went on that tirade, they sat up and listened.
yeah, yep, they received that message loud and clear, and I'm optimistic about them because I think there's not going to be much player turnover. So it's
Yeah,
a chance to just for this team to just build on. I mean, we already know they've got some great pieces, especially on the defensive end. We've seen the huge increase in confidence from Aiden Walsh in net. Partly thanks to the mentorship of Aaron Bold.
yeah.
Let's not forget this guy's a you know a 2-3 time champ. A
Three
Finals
times. Yep.
MVP, 3-time champ, and a Finals MVP. So nothing to sneeze at. Um, you know that defense they're building around Reed Bowering, Owen Grant. I mean, that's going to be they're going to be 2 cornerstones, and let's face it, you probably need more than one hand to count the number of guys who are really cornerstone defenders on that team. When you talk about Matt Beers, and Ryan Dilks,
Yeah.
you know, um, so to get those guys, to get most or all of those guys back for another season, I think if they can get a healthy Tyrell Hamer-Jackson for a season,
Yep.
you're going to be talking about more possessions, competitiveness at the face-off dot, which only helps this offense. Which I mean,
I was going to talk about the offense. I mean, look, Charlon Beatties, there's a guy that really needed to step up. He did.
and he did
Keegan
absolutely.
Balls really come into his own. Um, we even talked about it. He didn't have maybe a statistical great year in Kevin Crowley, but maybe that's the piece they needed was that leadership on that offensive end,
Absolutely.
that real leader, that veteran to come in and say, hey guys, this is how it's done. Hey, Adam, I really need you to step up here. Or, hey, Keegan, take this shot instead of stepping back or whatever.
Yeah. I think getting Kevin Crowley, it's been invaluable, really, for them, almost with that leadership, and it's definitely shown in the way the younger guys have stepped up. I'd add Brian Martell to that too.
Martell, yep.
He's just absolutely. I mean, this was a breakout year for him. So and hopefully they can build on it.
Well, again, the guys are probably going to be back next year, right? So,
yeah, yep, and they have a fairly high draft pick, only because they got caught in that 5-way tie there at 8 and 10, and it just turns out that they kind of end up at the bottom of that whole tiebreaker. So that propelled their draft pick from like 7th or 8th to 4th. So another high draft pick, which it's a big deal for them because they had so many years where they just did not have 1st-round draft picks after some of the just disastrous trades they made after their championship run as a stealth from 2010 to 2012. So, it's nice to see that that mess has kind of cleared itself up now, and now they're kind of, when it comes to draft standing, they're kind of back to not being stuck without picks. So
yeah.
oh, it's all good.
Yeah. They'll stick it out.
Yes, Mr. Nipples. They got me. Now beat it.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, any other non-playoff teams you guys want to discuss?
I mean,
other than I was just saying, being in Saskatchewan here.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, being in Saskatchewan here, I think that's another, franchise that's looking bright. That was a completely different team that you saw at the beginning of the season and the end of the season. I mean, Toronto put their best players in that last game, and that Rush team pushed them to the brink, and they got a lot of good young talent. Like you're mentioning, Dodds, Clark. You still have Mans in that situation. And again, you're still got Levi Anderson in waiting in the wings. Even in the back end, you still have Holden Garland. Billy Kidd III had a big year. Jake Boudreau is probably one of the top transition players in the league right now. Ryan Barnable. There's a lot of pieces to still build on there, and they're all young, so you're going to keep that core together.
Yeah, it should definitely be good. I guess my concern would be, is maybe similar to some other people who follow the league, that, when you look at the playoffs, you had six former East Division teams that made it. Only 2 former West Division teams made it. So, there's been talk, the teams out West, they're not really competing. I mean, Colorado, 2 years ago they won it. Last year they were within a game of winning it. Obviously this season wasn't anywhere
Flatlined.
near what they'd hoped or expected. But I'm not sure I buy kind of that whole idea that there's like an East bias, or that the Eastern teams have just this huge advantage over the West teams. I mean, Calgary got off to a slow start. I mean, they were, I know they were eliminated the last week of the season, but they ended up 8-10, just like Sask and Vancouver and New York and Rochester. I think they, if they don't start that season 0-3 or whatever, they don't have the slow start, that we could have been talking about them in the playoffs. So, I just feel like a lot of these West teams are right on the cusp, and they're only going to get better next year.
Yeah, I think, when we talked about before, I think the West teams just have to build differently than Eastern teams. And we talked about like Toronto, like they can just bring in free agents. It's not a problem with them. They don't need to build off a young talent, where it's probably a little bit harder to attract players out into the Western teams. So they are building through drafts. So it might take some years for them to build up, right? It's going to take some time for them to build up, where Toronto can build a winner now. Even Halifax, they're Eastern enough, they can build a winner now. Buffalo can build a winner now.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, especially in light of, Toronto has 2 draft picks in the first round, their own, which is, to be determined. It'll be somewhere between 12 and 15, depending on how the season ends. And then they actually have the number 2 pick because they have Las Vegas's pick. So from a trade, I believe it was the Hellier trade, maybe.
And for me, I mean, you're talking about teams that step forward, Western teams step forward and step back. I mean, I'm just surprised with Panther City, who's just a point away from making a nice little run here. You talk the probably, to me, one, if not the best team in the West, or one of. And you gave them a dogfight. You really did. This Panther City team came out of nowhere. And I know the guys who run their socials. I guess the guy who does their work is from around here. A lot of guys went to Penn State and stuff like that. So kind of get to know those guys a little bit and get to talk to them, upstairs in the press box, and kind of get but you were talking about a winning mentality. That's what they're starting to develop there in Panther City. So again, you're just a point away from or 2 points away from rocking the San Diego Seals, and that to me is a franchise. Now you're talking about a team that has some players but still has a lot of work to do. To me, is Vegas. Vegas has some guys I've seen uh, who could put up some numbers, who could do some things. But that's a 3 to 4 year window of rebuilding right there in order to
Yeah, I was
get
gonna
things.
say I see Philly kind of in the same boat as Las Vegas, where I think there's some retooling that really needs to be done there if they really want to be competitive. But I completely agree with you with Panther City, and again, like they have Callum Crawford kind of anchoring that forwards, but they've got a lot of young guys too, like Matthew Gauthier, Jason Knox. You still got the Malcolm brothers too, of course. So they got a young core too that is just going to keep getting better.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And you'll see some of those guys obviously out west. I think Will Malcolm's with New Westminster, I believe.
I believe so.
So
Yeah.
Will and Tony Malcolm, I believe, are both with New Westminster. Ryan Sheridan's with Nanaimo. Of course, got to mention who's backstopping New Westminster to a possible another Man Cup. My man, Zach Higgins. So just look out for that this summer. You might have to make you our New Westminster correspondent.
Yeah.
Get you on some WLA games. But no, but I
Nope,
definitely
I'm
agree.
PPL now.
I definitely agree. Tracy Koloski is definitely very, very slowly building a nice culture down in Fort Worth. I only hope that that they find a way to solve the attendance problems there and
Yeah,
enough
yeah.
to justify not relocating because they really are on the edge. I mean, obviously losing Jonathan Donville, hurt them pretty bad. They had a chance to win that game even without him in the lineup. So it definitely would have been interesting to see couple of key injuries really hurting, potentially affecting some of the playoff games we had this weekend. But yeah, I agree with Vegas too. That's going to take a couple of years. I think I think the fan base, it is there. I'm hoping with the move to the Lease Family Forum there in Henderson, hopefully fans who are going to the Strip will continue to follow the team to Henderson, and I'm hopeful that the new arena will kind of do the same thing in Michelob Ultra Arena was doing with some of the visiting fans and really giving them that experience and that incentive to come out, in large groups, to come watch, which it just helps the league in general. So,
Oh yeah, I mean, I got to see some of the pictures from when the Philadelphia Wings went out there not too long ago, and man, it looks like a good time. And of course, Vegas, it's starting to become. They got the Raiders out there now, and they got the Golden Knights. So, it's becoming a little sports town. So, from a place that didn't have nothing going on. So, again, playoff solves everything. You got to send a message to your fan base, show them a direction, and if you don't have a direction, it doesn't matter what city you're in. Everyone wants to see a winning team. So the minute they see playoffs, it kind of says, "Hey, listen, we're doing something over here." So
absolutely, and with the Vegas thing, I'd add the Aces, the WNBA team. They're the champs, so they're drawing significant crowds for the women's basketball team. So that's great to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, I guess we'll move into the important stuff here.
Yes,
really important stuff here. So we had 4 first-round playoff games. It started Saturday afternoon with Toronto, number 1 seed, hosting the number 8 seed Rochester Nighthawks, and going back to going back to our chat here, Nick Rose.
Yeah.
What more does he have to do to solidify, winning a goaltender of the year finally? 51 saves in a 9-6 victory. And, the score was really closer than it looked, because I think it was 9-3 going into the fourth quarter, or 9-4.
Yeah.
The game was kind of almost decided by then. A late Rochester charge just wasn't enough. But Challen
It was
Rogers,
garbage time.
two goals, 3 assists. Chris Boucher and Tom Shriver both had 2 goals and an assist. Mark Matthews had a goal and 3 assists. Corey Small, goal and 2 assists. Dan Craig, 1 and 1. For Rochester, again, Ryan Smith, Mr. Hat Trick Machine, had just that, a hat trick. Connor Fields, unfortunately, struggled. Just a goal and 3 assists after putting up 7 in that game against Philly. Curtis Knight, 1 and 1. Kyle Waters had a goal. Ryan Lanchberry and Thomas McConvey were held to an assist each. So not really, not what you want to see out of them, but that their season's just been so up and down. As we mentioned earlier, Ryland Hartley, 40 saves in the loss. So Toronto's going to advance, and they will be facing the Buffalo Bandits.
Yeah, but when you watch the game, though, Toronto, it just showed Rochester there's a world difference between us and Philly, world of the difference, and they found out real fast, because the minute the gates open, Toronto, the place is rocking. They got the fans behind them, and Shawn Rogers said, "Here, let me show you," and real fast. And that team alone, good ball movement. They were shooting from the outside, and not, like I said, they took their time, unloading, from the perimeter. If you want to use basketball terms, outside the box. They were just shooting away. They didn't have to get nowhere near the net. They didn't have to get do any crazy plays, no spin moves, no driving to the goaltender, none of that. They just stood back and they just unloaded with quick accuracy and finesse. They were just nasty picking apart, sniping away.
Yeah. When you are down 4-0 right off the bat in the first quarter against Toronto, you're gonna have a hard time coming back, a real hard time coming back. But Toronto does have to be careful with those outside shots, because we've seen it before. They get a little too comfortable with those outside shots, and then they start putting it right in the chest of the goaltender. But we know they can get there. Honestly, I think this is, Charles championship to lose at this point. They're the most well-rounded team, most depth. I don't see how they win a cup. That's just the thing.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. So,
yeah,
to
me, like you said, to me, it just Nighthawks were just trying to make a run. It was, but by then it was garbage time. They've already lost the game well in the first. Like Shawn said, you put yourself in an 0-4 hole. It's tough to climb out of. It's real tough, especially against that team of that kind of caliber. Like you said, when you're built on all round defense, offense, goaltender. You got a great head coach at the helm, and it's all depth, and it's great. It's great.
So again, Toronto advances. They'll be playing Buffalo, who won quite the overtime thriller in Bandit Land over Georgia, 10-9. And I'll let Pat run away with a bit of this, because a lot of folks have a lot of opinions on this game, especially about the officiating. Personally, everyone on both sides needs to shut up. That's my take on it. So
I'm a guy who likes to complain about officiating from a former wrestler. I know all thing about but listen, this game was fun to watch. Hands down. Back and forth all through the game, and I thought Georgia had this one. I thought they had this one in the bag. And listen, you could question the calling all you want, but at the end of the day, Buffalo won. And whether you like the result or not, it is what it is. Unfortunately, a lot of people were like myself. Were trying to hope for a Georgia upset, and as a matter of fact, I had Georgia as one of my upset in our pick'em. So, but no, unfortunately, it's what it is. The champions took one out. Now they're going to face a Toronto Rock team who's just licking their chops for revenge.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about before. Really, Buffalo's a two-headed monster, right? In Josh Byrne and Dane Smith, and we saw that. 5 goals from Byrne and assist, 6 assists from Dane Smith. So really, if you can find a way to contain those two, you're probably going to be okay. But Georgia just wasn't able to contain those two simple enough. And you still have a guy like Matt Vince between the pipes. I mean, he is aging, yes, but he's still Matt Vince.
Right. Right. Yeah. And, I'd say, one of the downfalls for as well as the Georgia defense played, being physical, Buffalo went 4 for 4 on the power play. So, that definitely hurt, especially in a game where every goal pretty much counted. They also allowed a couple of transition goals to Ian McKay and to Nick Weiss that were kind of, they were daggers. So, they were able to get one of those types of goals back themselves with Jeff Henrik. But credit to Brett Dobson, to go into that atmosphere, and stand pretty tall, 49 saves, on the night. Unfortunately, it was just one too few. But Georgia struggled on the power play themselves, going just 2 for 4, and some of the usual suspects again. Lyle Thompson, 2 goals, 3 assists. Brendan Bomberry had a hat trick and an assist. Andrew Q had 3 goals and 2 assists. Shane Jackson, unfortunately, kind of shut down, just limited to 4 assists. You didn't hear much from Brian Cole, and you have to wonder, in the injury department, Seth Oakes did not play. He was out with an illness, and you have to wonder, boy, if talk about a blow. I mean, just like if Panther City had Donville, if Georgia had Oakes, how different might this game be? A guy who can snipe, a guy who's going to get in the middle and going to cause havoc and disrupt and draw penalties too. So, he does a masterful job getting inside and drawing penalties on the opposing defense. So, we could have seen guys like McKay headed to the box a little more than they were. And I would like to point out for all the Buffalo fans who think that the refs were biased against them, Georgia had more penalty minutes in the game than Buffalo. So just want to point that out. I also recall seeing 2 Georgia defenders bodied right next to each other late in the game and nothing called. So but yeah, it really did start to kind of unravel in the 4th with the officiating, and it was on both sides. I questioned at first the 5-minute major on Brian Cole for the hit on Dane Smith, but when I saw the replay, I kind of changed my mind.
Yeah,
just because when you get a hit like that right in that area near the boards.
He did get him from behind. Yeah, he did get him from behind. Yeah.
It's so tough not to call that. There's that thin zone, if you will. Maybe a few feet out from the boards where it's like if you hit someone and they're going into the boards, you're gonna get that call.
Yeah,
that boarding call because it's just
it's a dangerous hit. It can be. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, how many times have we seen it? I always go back to the Jeremy Noble, Greg Hartnell getting suspended for 5 games on the Jeremy Noble hit, and that was probably not as not as hard as the hit we saw Cole put on Smith, last night. So, but Buffalo escapes, and this 2 out of 3 is going to be.
It could be interesting. I mean,
It's gonna be
Buffalo's
something.
kind of had Toronto's number
So,
last few years.
yeah. So Toronto, like Pat said, Toronto's going to be. They're going to be licking their chops. They want some revenge. As Shawn said, it's their. I think it's their cup to lose too. So Friday night in Toronto, and then Sunday afternoon at 5, I believe. Sunday at 5 will be in Buffalo for Game 2. So, and this is gonna be an interesting week. I mean, what do you guys think about the whole doubleheader thing going on here with the?
If you're asking me for early
I was
predictions,
going to say, at least for this first round, I loved how they stacked kind of the games. So we weren't kind of crossing over and trying to watch 2 games at once or 3 games at once. I actually kind of liked it. It's kind of a full day of lacrosse.
Yeah. And it seems like they're not doing it here either, but that's I guess my only qualm is the Buffalo Toronto thing. I can see. Now you have San Diego and Albany, or you could add San Diego and Halifax. And, to have 2 games in one weekend with cross-country travel, that to me, that puts
that's tough.
That puts that side of it puts that side of the bracket at a distinct disadvantage going into the finals.
And maybe that's kind of disadvantage you have with the unified standings, right? Is you're going to get those matchups in the playoffs, and how do you juggle that in a 3-game series? Where maybe you have an East and East on one side, you got a West and versus East on the other side, where you really can't stretch it over 2 weekends.
Yeah, and I noticed, had Halifax won, they were actually going to play 1 game in Halifax next weekend, and then do a doubleheader in San Diego the following weekend. So they were going to play, the lower seed team was going to get game 1, as opposed to top seed, lower seed, top seed in game 3 if necessary. So, but that's where we stand. So, Friday at 7, I believe.
What's the predictions?
Oh, predictions. Yeah, too early. I'm going to wait for. I'm sure Eduardo's probably already got his picks.
Man.
I'm going to wait. I want to wait and see. Injury reports, that kind of stuff. Who's available, who's not. So,
I'm already going to go on a limb here. I'm just going to say I think it's going to be a San Diego and a Rock finals. Oh my gosh! Can you imagine? Man,
I won't have any issue with that because top 2 teams, all season. San Diego's 9-1 at home. They're doing something right, for all that we've, kind of worried about or criticized, that, hey, the team is old, they're slow, they're, what are they going to do? Their window's closing, they keep finding ways to win. So,
I think
and especially at home. So,
Toronto and San Diego are kind of the 2 teams that are championship or bust. And, definitely with Toronto. San Diego and Albany, man. Because I like that matchup. I think Albany.
I do.
It's very
money. I really could.
So.
Yeah, it could go either way.
So, obviously moving on to with San Diego, the late playoff game Saturday, we got a 9-8 overtime win over Panther City, and I'll let Shawn.
You want to talk about a back and forth game, man. I know it held more than a 1-point lead in this one. And it looked that for a second they were Panthers team might have the edge, especially in the second quarter when Will Malcolm gave him the 6-5 lead. But Dane Dobie came up with a goal with 2.5 seconds left to go in the half tied. And you know what? The experience just came through in overtime with Dane Dobie finding the back of the net, a shot around the defender, kind of his trademark thing. You know what? Even in the loss, credit to Nick Danemood, man. 54 saves, 9 goals against. He had a hell of a game. And I mean, again, just one more save and he could have maybe had it. And even then, I mean, it took over 2 minutes before anyone scored in overtime. It was a back and forth. It was a defensive battle, as you can see from the score. But yeah, Dane Dobie with a hat trick, Austin Stotts with 4 goals, 5 assists for Westberg. Interesting, they didn't have a goal, but I mean, he's a playmaker out there. I don't know. That's why I think it's going to be an interesting series against Albany. I mean, again, San Diego's winning these games, but not blowing the doors off anybody. And in a 3-game series, who knows? And especially a young team like Albany, like we talked about the old legs of San Diego. Can they keep up in a 3-game series against a younger team like Albany?
Yeah. Yeah, I can't disagree with that, you know, and for PC, obviously, you know, tough luck, you know, again, no Jonathan Donville, you know, Ryan Sheridan stepped up. He had a couple of goals in his absence. Callum Crawford, a goal and 3 assists. You know, unfortunately, I think he got bottled up a little bit by that San Diego defense.
Yeah.
Will Anthony Malcolm each had a goal and 2 assists. Matthew Gauthier, a goal and 2 assists. Again, Damewood, 54 saves.
Actually, I was going to bring one thing up here. And okay, we're going to get on the referees a little bit here, but that one goal by Austin Stotts when he got his helmet knocked off and he kept playing and scored. How is that not blown down? I'm sorry. I've seen it.
So they actually did explain it.
Did
on
they
the
explain it?
They
Okay.
sort of explained it on the podcast. I believe Teddy Jenner tweeted out something shortly after, and my understanding of the rule is if you have the ball and your helmet gets knocked off, basically the way it's stated is you have to get rid of the ball as soon as possible. But you can do that by taking a shot. So apparently his helmet got knocked off. I mean, yeah, he took a couple of steps and kind of crease dived, but you know, I mean, I think when you look at it in real time, I feel like it was a short enough window to be justified. I mean, you know, if he's running 5-6 steps or you know, getting towards the restraining line or something like that, just to get away from a defender, then at that point, okay, hey, you're blowing whistle. So, but that was the explanation on that, and I know for
I can see if a Panther City fan, if you're a Panther City fan, I could still see how you'd be.
Yeah. It's
especially like you said, he did take a couple steps. But I mean, I get
on
it too.
On the flip side, the
refs are calling us in real time too, right? Like bang.
And if you're a Panther City fan, you're going, okay, hey, we got away with maybe not getting called for going up high or something.
Yeah.
Penalty, but obviously, allowing the goal hurts too, especially in what ended up being an overtime game. So where every goal counted. So yeah, so I mean, for Panther City, I think again, I think you're not gonna see too much in the way of movement on personnel. I think the big question is going to be: is Callum Crawford coming back for 19th season?
Yeah, because I think that really kind of anchors that team is Callum Crawford. I think that's a big piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, I think so, and I would hope he comes back. Obviously with this weekend, we've seen a number of players, exiting who, kind of sentimental feelings, because
Yeah.
they're guys who have had long careers, solid careers, in the case of Ryan Benesh and Callum Crawford, definitely, first ballot Hall of Famers. Um, but they've never won a championship. We still have, Brody Merrill still seeking his first championship as a player. So I really hope, I really do hope he comes back. I think, much like Kevin Crowley in Vancouver, that level of leadership and mentorship is just invaluable.
Yeah.
And obviously part of the rationale for, the trade that got him to Panther City was just the fact that, he lives nearby in the Midwest. So, there's, obviously, this lingering question about whether the team is going to relocate like New York did. I would have to think, if we don't hear something this week, hopefully they're safe, or, hopefully we get something similar to like the Rochester, where they're like, okay, hey, look, we're just going to quash any rumors now by putting out, our stay, renew your season tickets, that announcement, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I know Gary said it before, and I agree with him. Maybe it's a situation like Las Vegas where they're just not, they're going from Fort Worth to Dallas, just where it's a bigger center, have more of a chance of a drawing crowd versus Fort Worth, where they're just not in a good situation. Maybe it's just not so much relocation per se, it's just kind of moving into a different area.
Yeah, that's certainly a possibility. So now, I don't recall offhand. Is that's not the same arena where the WNBA Dallas Wings play, is it? Because I know they're owned by the same ownership group. So hopefully, if the Dallas Wings are playing elsewhere, maybe hopefully that arena, can be configured for an NLL team, and they could find a way to make it work if they think Dickey's Arena isn't working. So,
Yeah, I mean, if I'm them, I'm just trying to see if I could put them under the same building with the maybe the Stars and the Mavericks. You might want to try somewhere in there. I mean, because like you said, Fort Worth. I mean, then again, like I'm surprised because like like those small areas with nothing going on, like the Rod should be able to draw a decent crowd. You know what I'm saying? Like Rochester, it's like an island on its own, so they draw decent crowds. So, but then again, I don't know if that has to do with graphically being towards up north, where the atmosphere for sports is different compared to down south. So I'm not sure. So, you just got to, I mean, they just got to, like you said, playoff now. You kind of made a nice little, have a direction. You just got to keep on chirping with the fans and so forth.
Yeah, and
But
to
out
answer your
there,
question, Mike, I was going to answer Mike's question. The Dallas Wings play out of College Park Center at the University of Texas, so they're in Arlington.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's interesting. Well, I mean, whatever they decide, I certainly hope they can find a way to make it work and be there for another season, because I certainly think if they can retain kind of most of their roster, I think they're going to be in really good shape. You might say one thing they're missing is kind of a face-off guy. Tyler Burton kind of struggled. He was out for a bit and kind of has struggled at the dot since coming back. He's kind of their only guy right now, but maybe a few trades or something, they can find a guy that will work, find someone in the draft, and to get that offense some more possessions would be huge.
Yeah.
It would certainly boost their chances of winning, and being a contender next year. I
Yeah, I was gonna say like they probably not far off to hosting a home playoff game, but again, going back to those attendance was like that's
Yeah.
not gonna look good. That's not gonna look good in the league if you're playing a home playoff game and it's an empty arena.
Yeah. You only got 1 or
Yeah.
2,000. Yeah. So, well, let's hope they can find a way to turn things around. So,
Hey, Ryan, what's up, buddy?
Ryan.
so I don't know, Pat, you want to run another?
Sure, I certainly can.
Get our
yeah.
fine folks who are tuning in.
Yeah, get them all.
If you get hurt at work, in a motor vehicle accident, personal injury, or affected by criminal law, you call David R. Cherry of the Cherry Firm. Cherry Law Firm is here to fight for you and get what you deserve. Cherry Injury Law is a dedicated, well-established personal injury law firm built on the promise of aiding the seriously injured throughout the state of Pennsylvania. If you have been seriously injured in the state of PA by the negligence of another, and if you have questions for a Westchester or media personal injury attorney, please don't hesitate to call. Call 610-565-0300 or go to cherryinjurylaw.com. Let David R. Cherry fight for your right. And again, that number is 610-565-0300 or go to cherryinjurylaw.com. Great moments don't just happen, they happen with you in the crowd. Sherry'sTickets.com is easy to use and has no hidden fees. The price you see is the price you pay. Pay less, play more with Sherry'sTickets.com and get the tickets you want. Save even more by using the exclusive promo code EOP10 and share an experience that will live on. Don't pay hidden fees and save 10%. Why use any other ticket reseller and get those hard to come by tickets to the big game? If you need a more personal touch, give them a call at 610-494-5050. Sherry'sTickets.com also has great theater and concert tickets that are hard to get your hands on. Remember, don't overpay with the rest and save with the best at Sherry'sTickets.com. For that next great moment, save 10% by using the promo code EOP10. Great moments start at Sherry'sTickets.com.
Yes,
I was about to say,
yes,
Super
we are
Dog's
back.
not
We are
very
live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to mourn the loss of Sumi Dog there. So he was my secret NLL insider.
Well, we are back. We are live. We're back on all Lacrosse all the time, and we are continuing the NLL playoff picture, and we have one more game to break down.
Yeah, so today, final game, third-seeded Albany Firewolves at MVP Arena against the sixth-seed Halifax Thunderbirds, and much to all of our dismay with the Pick'ems, Albany comes away with a 9-3 victory, and boy, did they run away in the in the fourth quarter. 1-1 after one. It was 4-1 Albany at the half, and then things started to kind of fall apart for Halifax, and they have one Doug Jamieson to thank for that. Jamieson 52 saves and held Halifax to just 3 goals. 2 from Clark Peterson, 1 from Austin Shanks. Not much other offense. Randy Stotts had 2 assists, and then Cody Jamieson had an assist for Halifax, and a few other guys had an assist. And as things unraveled in the fourth, Jake Withers and David Brock both found themselves ejected from the game as Halifax upped their penalty minute total to 67 for the game. So, Brock's ejection in particular was rather interesting as he was sitting in the box and then just got up, and the way the boxes are set up at MVP Arena,
Old Pidomia.
yeah. So the way the boxes are set up at MVP Arena, you've got one on each side of the. I'm guessing the video scorekeeper, timekeeper, video replay area, and but they're all accessible. There's no separation between the sections, so you could see on the replay as they came back from commercial that he had gotten up, basically walked out of the back of his penalty box through the area where the official would, look at the replay and where the timekeeper and scorekeeper sits, into the Albany penalty box where Mike Byrne was sitting. He'd been sitting there for several minutes, and starts to climb the glass to go after a fan. So
Nice.
Not sure how that materialized, but that was that was quite interesting to see. I wish we had video of it. We'll have to find that video and get it up next week or something. So, but yeah, unfortunately, just it's almost becoming a broken record with the Thunderbirds with this this lack of discipline, and I wish I could put my finger on it. Because they have all the talent in the world, and they've been talking for a couple of years now about unfinished business. Heck, they've been talking about unfinished business since they lost to Sask as the original Nighthawks in 2018. And they've had the talent to get back to the cup, and they just keep kind of shooting themselves in the foot with the lack of discipline. And I wish I had an explanation for it, but frustrations just keep on boiling over, and they just take a lot of senseless penalties and just don't put themselves in a position to win.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to San Diego too, right? Where this is a team where if you can get out of their skin, they just unravel. They just can't help themselves, right?
Yeah, no, and that's a good point, because I mean, if if the young kids on Albany find a way to do the same thing, to San Diego that they just did to Halifax with that, and obviously Dougie plays a part in that. If
100%, I think
if San Diego's finds themselves in the fourth quarter having only scored 3 goals, they might implode the same way. So
I was going to say that's part of it. I mean, in some ways, this Albany team goes with Dougie. And how he goes. Like, if he's having an off night, this Albany team's going to struggle. If he's playing well, they have a chance of winning.
It's definitely a fair assessment, because obviously Albany didn't reach double digits in goals either, so no one really had a big standout game. I mean, John Wagner had 2 goals and an assist, but both his goals were late when things were already kind of in the bag.
Yeah,
and Halifax was unraveling. Travis Longbow with a pair of goals, but you had Ty Kurtz just had a goal and 2 assists. Alex Simmons just had a goal and an assist. So those are your big players that you're going to need big production out of against San Diego. And same would go for Ethan Walker, who I think I don't know what Walker's stats were offhand. I think he had a goal.
I could probably get up here. I was going to say, I mean, Albany had 7 different goal scorers too, compared to the Thunderbirds, who really got production out of 2 guys.
Yeah.
So I mean, that tells you a little bit too. Like there's a little bit more depth there.
Yeah. I guess the only other thing I would add too with that is you would hope that Albany could get more production, but they don't help themselves on the power play. They went 0 for 7.
That's going to be a big,
So again,
against Seattle.
I mean, we've been talking about it all season. That when's their power play going to get? When's their power? And then what was it last week? Was it last week they play? Who did they play in week 21? Can't remember.
I don't have it top of my head.
Who are you talking about?
It was the Riptide, but they had I think it was their week 21 game or their week 20 game where suddenly we were, holy cow, the power plays come to life, and and now it's back to kind of where it's been all season. But again, here we are, we're talking about them not succeeding on the power play, but they came out with the win and a solid win at that, and they're moving on. So.
Well, and that's a valid point too, because if you're getting under, Albany skin or San Diego skin, and they're giving you those opportunities, you got to capitalize on them still, right?
True. So
No, I mean, I'm just looking at the penalty minutes in this game. Albany 4, Dunderberg's 28. You pretty much spent a half hour in the penalty box.
Oh, it was more than that. No, it was more than that.
He's looking at John.
They had 67 penalty minutes.
John Wagner had the most penalty minutes for Albany with 4.
Yeah.
David Brock had 28.
Yeah. So both him and Withers, they got a major, and then they were pretty much given, unsportsmanlike, game misconduct, and then I think a match penalty, basically. So they were both chucked from the game with about 2 minutes left or so.
Yeah, and Brock had a dead ball foul earlier in the third quarter as well, added to his.
Yeah, so I mean that number's a bit inflated just from those two guys, but I'd also note that that's going to carry over to next season, and if both I don't know, that Halifax has already talked. They talked Brock out of retirement, I think, this year. So who knows if he's going to retire this year or not?
Makes them retiring.
Yeah, but if he's coming back, he and Withers are both going to be serving 1-game suspensions to start next season, most likely. Unless they somehow win on appeal or something.
And Withers could be a
players union. So yeah, that's going to be a bigger loss than not having Withers for your season opener. So yeah, so the Firewolves advance. They'll be taking on San Diego, and that's going to be Friday night at 10. Is it 10 or 10:30?
It'll be 10:30 your time. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So Friday night at 10:30 in Game 1 in San Diego, and then Sunday at 3 in Albany in Game 2. So yeah. So we're gonna have 4 games next week. And
so just look over your right shoulder and you just pick
we could
one.
be coming on this time next week talking about the finals if they're both sweeps. So.
Yeah. That's ready to go. Yeah.
I'm ready to rock. I can't wait. I can't wait for the weekend.
I guess we'll cover the pick'ems before we cut out here. Gary, Shawn, myself, and Eduardo all went 3-1. Pat went 2-2 because he chose Georgia for the upset. We all
so close, Pat.
We all struck out on Halifax. So everything's pretty much staying the same. Gary's at 84 and 55. Shawn and Eduardo are tied for second at 82 and 57. Pat's 79 and 60, and I'm
on my way to the base, my friend.
You're making it with 500, Mike.
No, I am at 69 and 70, so I'm one game under 500. With probably
I've got tired about hearing about you being.
I've got at least 6 games to work with, possibly 9.
Nice.
So, just a couple other things I'll add into just for the season. Home teams have won 77 games. Away teams have won 62 on the year. And we haven't mentioned it in a while. Brandon Robinson's initiative, the Buffalo Bandits forward, from Morgan's Message. 63 goals scored this weekend. Total for the season is 3,170. So
awesome.
So it'll look like they'll be headed to about $3,300 or so.
That's awesome.
That's going to go to that initiative for mental health, which is awesome. So, and I think that about wraps it up, guys.
All right.
Yeah.
So, obviously want to thank everyone for tuning in, and stick with us next week.
Gail or Gales with his Tales of Prague.
Yeah, we'll definitely hear more about Prague. Well, I'm sure we'll get some pictures. We'll get some video. We'll be getting you all the coverage that we can of the NLL, and
yes,
yeah. The only other thing I'll add is if you go to our All Lacrosse All the Time page, I just I just updated following the Halifax Albany game. I updated the first round of the NLL draft, at least as far as we know. Obviously, Philly. Yeah, Philly's going to have the number 1 pick. The number 2 pick right now is Toronto's pick that they have from Vegas. And then we have Georgia.
Toronto's how to get rich.
Then we have Georgia that actually has Philly's original first-round pick that went to Rochester and then to Georgia. Then you have Vancouver, Calgary, Saskatchewan picking 6th. Then Buffalo has 2 picks in a row, 7 and 8. The first they got from Riptide / Black Bears. I guess we'll start calling them Ottawa at this point. And then the number 8 pick is the one that originally belonged to Rochester. Georgia's going to pick again 9th. They have Panther City's pick for the first round. Then Halifax, and then Georgia's own first-round pick. So, and then the remaining picks are Albany's, which belongs to Vegas, Buffalo, San Diego, and Toronto for 12 to 15. That's to be determined. So, but Georgia does have 3 first-round picks. Buffalo has 3 first-round picks. Few teams do not have a pick. Colorado does not have a first-round pick this year. So,
could still see some.
Well,
yeah, I think so. Well, with Toronto with 2 first-round picks, you got to figure they're going to move at least one, if not both.
We know how much Dallas loves those first-round picks. So.
Yeah, in exchange for players or just later picks. Kind of keep kicking the first-round can down the road.
Yeah.
Well, for me, I'm really excited because next week, in the month of May, we get 2 Final Fours. We're going to Final Four NLL Lacrosse between, like we just mentioned, the Firewolves, Toronto, San Diego, and Albany. And then, of course, at the end of May, we get the Final Four NCAA Lacrosse, which I can't wait to get down for. I loved it. I had such a ball last year covering it all Memorial Day weekend. I didn't leave there. I just had a phenomenal time covering Penn State, Notre Dame. Who else was out there? West Virginia, and who was the other?
And how's the food, Pat?
Yes, I lived off the food. I forgot who's the other schools down there. No, that was the Final Four: Penn State, Virginia. Penn State, Virginia, West Virginia, Notre Dame.
Right? Maybe Duke.
Duke was that? Yeah, Duke. Duke eliminated Penn State. That was right. Yeah, that was right. That's right. So, it was a lot of fun though. First time experience, eating like a slob, working with with ESPN cats, and just a atmosphere I'll never take back. It was really fun.
Awesome. Well, we can't wait to hear about that. So.
Yeah, again, man, I'm ready to rock.
We'll close with again, thanks to everyone who's tuning in, who's following us. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, we're on YouTube. So tune in. We'll keep you as up to date as we can on all the news, trades, signings, other happenings. Definitely stick with us through the summer because things are slowing down just a little bit with NLL season winding down, but they're going to pick right back up with major series in Ontario, WLA out in BC, PLL obviously. Pat will be covering NCAA finals, and of course juniors as well. Juniors in Ontario, Alberta, BC. We'll be covering President's Cup, Man Cup, Minto Cup. So lots of
I can't wait. I can't. It's a lot of fun. I cannot wait. I cannot wait to get down there. Again, guys, I want to say thank you so much for tuning in. And guys, like you said, you can't get enough of all lacrosse all the time. I know. I'm trying to put on the heavy boots here. I'm trying to fill those boots. I mean, it's tough to follow, double G's, platinum. But anyway, guys, listen, it's been fun. It's always fun to get to work with Muffler Mike, Shawn, double S, double S, double M, double G, double Q, double R. We got all that going on this show. So anyway, guys, it's been a fun ride. But listen, let's rack it up here, and guys, stay tuned. Come back next week. We will break down the Final Four of NLL playoffs. All right, guys. See you later.